Have you ever dreamed of one day becoming a famous actor? If so, the first thing you need to realize is that this dream can only become a reality if you're willing to put in the time, training, dedication, passion, and patience required to make it. Stay tuned to meet a young actress who has worked hard to develop her career.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
So excited to have with us on The Better Part today Miss Emily Greco, a wonderful actress whom I saw recently in a one-woman show called Amelia Lives. They say that the best actors are those who are so consumed by the role they're playing, they become the person they portray. And in this show, Emily became Amelia Earhart, the brave aviator whose mysterious disappearance has fascinated people ever since. Emily has spent 7 years at the Portola Valley Theatre Conservatory as both instructor and performer. She's been a beloved drama coach to students of all ages and has helped them challenge themselves and hone their acting skills. She herself is about to embark on the next phase of her career, which may involve leaving the Bay Area. But first, she's going to tell us a little about what she's done so far. Welcome, Emily, to The Better Part.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Since I've mentioned Amelia Lives, tell us what it was like to be on stage by yourself for an hour and a half and carry a whole show.
It was daunting at first. I've done theater my whole life, but I've never been asked to be on stage by myself for the entire show. And so while I thought, I have the acting chops for this, I can handle it, the rehearsal process was actually a very lonely process, especially once you got into tech week and there are a bunch of people around, but all of them were in the tech booth hanging out together doing sound and lights and calling cues, and you're out on this empty stage talking to no one for an hour and a half. So initially it was much different than I had anticipated. The joy of doing it, however, was once the audience came, once there was this group of people who all agreed to pretend the same thing, to be able to be on stage and connecting with them and looking at them and hearing them respond with laughter or sighs, and being able to visually connect with them it was the final touch. It brought the whole thing to life, and it was so enjoyable.
I love the show. I don't know how you managed to so inhabit the character that, to me, you actually came to resemble her physically. That on the stage there was a big blow-up of a portrait of her, and it looked just like you.
Amelia in real life was extremely tall. She was 5 feet 9 inches tall, and that's how tall I am. So we had that going for us. I was particularly drawn to the fact that she had freckles as well, which, growing up was just the bane of my existence. And then here's this beautiful aviator who loved adventure and loved life so much and has come to be such an icon in our culture, and then to look at her and realize, I sort of look like her. That was quite a badge of honor, actually.
Well, you played her as a 6-year-old, a teenager, a young woman, and finally the mature pilot. How did you achieve all these transformations and make them believable to the audience? I mean, there was no break in the show. It just went, and I was just entranced.
Wonderful, wonderful. I feel like I feel that those transitions are made believable when an actor believes them. And there has to be a willingness to suspend reality as we know it. And so to imagine standing on a barn roof just shouting at the top of my lungs at some rotten next door neighbor who is teasing me, you know, and just yelling just like, you know, this gutsy 6-year-old would. And then, of course, making that transformation into the world of an early teenager. And of course, all of that angst, particularly if she's a tall, skinny, freckled girl, I can relate to that. And so being able to draw on some of your own experience and being willing to share that with the audience, I think the actor has to believe it.
I was a short, skinny, freckled girl. But when you were doing the show, did you discover anything of yourself in her that you could relate to? Do you follow the motivation theory of acting?
Yes. You know, as you get to know characters, I think that if you're doing your job, your role as an actor is to figure out how you are that character. And so for me, it was particularly fun to tap into her spunky side, who kind of just said whatever she thought. And I suppose that I'm not always known for keeping all of my thoughts quietly inside my head. And so being able to understand, you know, just that feeling that's inside of you, if I don't say this out loud, if I don't try, I think I might just explode. And I think that that's ultimately where a lot of Amelia's energy came from, just that similarity of wanting to say.
She was a real pioneer.
Oh, she was.
I see, in addition to some of your acting awards, you also have your leather aviators jacket from the show with you. Would you like to give us a small sample from the show and set it up for us?
I would love to. The particular piece that I'm going to share with you is actually almost verbatim a letter that she wrote to her husband, George Putnam, who she always referred to as GP. And the story is he proposed to her 6 times before she finally accepted, but I think relented might be the correct word. She was quite hesitant to do so. And on the day of their marriage at his mother's house, she walked into the room. He was there, his mother was there, and the justice of the peace was there. And she walked up and handed him this letter. And once he read it, he said, okay, and they proceeded to get married. And so this is the letter that she wrote to him. Dear GP, there are some things that must be said before we marry. Some things we've talked over before. You need not be reminded of my reluctance to marry. My fear that I will destroy opportunities in my work which are so important to me. I feel this act just now as crazy as anything I could do. I know that there may be rewards in it, but I do not have the courage to look ahead. In our marriage, I shall not hold you to any medieval code of loyalty or faithfulness to me, nor shall I consider myself so bonded to you. If we are honest with each other, I think that any problems that may arise can be avoided. Let's not interfere in each other's work or play, and let's not allow the world to share in our troubles. In regards to this, I may need to find some place I can go to be myself. from time to time. I cannot guarantee that I can withstand the confinements of even an attractive cage. I must ask you for a difficult promise, and that is you will let me go in 1 year if we find no happiness or peace together. I will try my best in every way. A.E.
Emily, that was wonderful. Let's go back now to the beginning of your desire to be an actress. How old were you when you first dreamed of acting as a possible career for you?
The first moment where I thought I could do this was in 3rd grade, and they were doing a 3rd grade play, and I really wasn't paying much attention to it. And then the music teacher announced whoever gets the main boy and girl role will get to sing a duet of Somewhere Out There from the movie An American Tail. And I just thought I was born to sing this song. And so I auditioned and I got this part. And when it was time to perform, the youngest child in me just woke up to the fact that there was this entire room of people who were sitting quietly and listening to me. And that was marvelous and magical, and I couldn't get enough. And it was probably only a few years later where I started thinking, oh, I should start taking classes because I want to be an actor someday.
You must have been a born actor, because most people have the opposite effect when they get on stage. You know, they get stage fright. That's what would happen to me if I had to carry a whole show. Who were some of your role models when you first thought of becoming an actress? Did you have any on stage or on screen?
You know, I had always my mind was always a steel trap for actors, for their names and roles that they had done. And even now, in conversation with people, I say, oh yeah, well, do you remember so-and-so was in that movie? And people can't believe I remember seeing that when I was 3 or 4. So I remember being particularly smitten by Meryl Streep, of course, and isn't that lovely to be able to say now? But I think ultimately over the years, the people who have ended up being my role models have been the variety of strong women who have come across my path, whether they have been my own mother or female relatives, friends of theirs. I'm still very close with my 6th grade teacher, and also a particular teacher from college. Just these women who really embraced the fact that I wanted to live out loud all of the time, and were never telling me to be quiet or shush or be more proper. And it was always very celebrated. You know, Emily, we think you're fabulous the way you are. And I think ultimately those have been my role models and given me the courage to step out on stage.
You yourself are probably a role model to all those people at the Theatre Conservatory, because I hear them talking about you all the time, and I would love to be an actress like Emily. Thanks. What did you do to help further your career? Did you take acting classes like the ones you gave at the Theatre Conservatory?
I did. My acting classes were much more sporadic, which probably reflected more just the community that I was growing up in, and trying to get from one activity to another just wasn't as easy as it has been for my students here. So I would take one class here, one class there, but of course I was always involved with the plays at school, and if there was something going on at church, well, I could get up in front of everyone and say that. I'll pretend it's a stage. And so on. Well,
you sing and dance in some of your shows, too.
I do.
Did you take singing lessons, or?
No, and even now, people will ask me, oh, Emily, you sing? No, but I will if you'll let me get up on stage. I think that I sing fine, but I've not been formally trained for it. But of course, I'll get up on stage and do anything if you'll give me a minute up there. So I'll risk it.
I thought your singing was really great.
Thank you.
How did you become involved with the Theatre Conservatory and Cheryl Goodman Morris, the artistic director?
I had moved to Chicago after college. I was living there for 3 or 4 years, and I had met a good friend of mine, Naomi Kinsman Downing, who is now an author, but at the time was working in children's theater. And she had moved out here, and she called me up one day and said, "Hey, remember how we always thought it would be so fun to open a theater someday?" I said, "Yeah. Would you like to do that now?" "I guess." And she had met Cheryl. And the children's theater had been up and running during the 90s, but then had kind of been tucked away for a while just because of people's schedules, and there wasn't someone to head it up. But she had found Naomi, asked her to head it up, and Naomi said, "Yes, but I have a friend I want to bring in." And so I showed up and surprised Cheryl and said, "Here I am. Apparently you are going to employ me." And she was very gracious and did.
That's like those movies that I saw when I was a kid. You know, let's go out to the barn and put on a show with Judy Garland and, and the crew. Let's talk a little about your role as a drama coach there. What's it like working with children of all ages? I mean, how do you motivate them through all the weeks of rehearsals, and what happens when they don't get the part that they set their heart on?
Well, let me tell you, it's never boring working with kids. There is never a dull moment. And I think working with kids, every teacher has their own method. So while I've been very fortunate to work with some very warm and affectionate teachers, I'm the teacher who kind of gets out there and cracks jokes, and I use humor quite a bit to engage my students. As far as motivating them, I don't find that kids need a ton of motivation to want to participate. And so I think that the idea is to say, here we are, we're a team. How do we as a team tell this story? And as soon as they realize, oh, well, the whole group is going to do this, then they want to get up there and they want to participate with that. Of course, there are always some broken hearts if we're doing Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and they didn't get the part of Snow White because, you know, Snow White seems like such an important character because her name is in the title.
Right.
But I really feel that it is the craft of a teacher to put such importance into every role so that every student truly understands this story would not be the same if I was not in it. If I didn't walk out and say this line or do this action, this story wouldn't be the same, so they need me. And as a teacher, that's such a joy to be able to empower kids that way and give them that gift.
Cheryl, the conservatory's director, told me a little about Whois Midwife Crisis, the original musical that was produced at the conservatory in 2009, in which you played the title role. And she said that that role was actually specifically written for you.
Yes.
What was it like to play a role that was written for you?
It was incredible. First, I mean, the character herself is so warm and so trusting and so loving. It was such an honor to feel like, oh, they felt that I could present this character. Right. So that in itself is such a grand compliment. My favorite part of being an actor is the rehearsal process, the crafting of putting things together. And so to be able to partner with Cheryl, to have, clearly we had our rehearsals in the evening, but we also had additional rehearsals throughout the week during the day where we would just kind of dig into it. Cheryl had written the script along with her friend Karen Russell, and the three of us would often get together and puzzle through songs, and if we changed this lyric, could we do this movement on stage? And it was the puzzling of the character that I enjoyed crafting, and being able to make suggestions about what felt natural for myself in that moment, perhaps this too is what Pua would want to do in this moment.
We should say that this show is about the early books of the Old Testament in the Bible, but it's a very, very funny take on those books in the Bible. And you took this show on tour.
We did.
To the theater in Louisville. What was that like, having a different audience from the audience you were accustomed to in the Bay Area?
It was extremely rewarding. It was so well received by people. The enthusiasm that the audience shared with us was sometimes overwhelming. I feel like the whole cast was surprised in the most wonderful sense at how much audiences enjoyed it. And of course, it's always fun to try and move a show into another location. So where we had originally performed Pua's Midwife Crisis on a proscenium stage, which is similar to a television box where there's a frame and the stage all happens behind it. When we were in the Actors Theater in Louisville, it was a 3/4 round, which means that our stage was out and the audience was on 3 sides of us. And it does affect how you can move on stage and what those stage pictures can look like, because you want to make sure people can see you. And so again, just getting into the nitty-gritty, the craft of putting together the story was so rewarding.
Will you be doing any teaching in the future, or just looking for roles?
You know, that I hope that I will have the opportunity to teach again. Right now, the reason that I've chosen not to be teaching at this time is in order to free myself entirely to be able to do auditions and projects for myself. I'm hoping down the road I'll be able to teach again. I enjoy kids so much.
So now that you have an agent, what kind of roles will you be looking for? Will we see you in commercials for Coca-Cola at the Super Bowl, or?
Well, not this year, but you know, now that I've been working with, I'm working with Cast Images Talent Agency. They're located in Sacramento, and what I've been able to do with them so far has been a wide variety of projects. So I've done a few commercials, I've done some print work, I've done a voiceover. So I've had an opportunity to explore a lot of different opportunities to do acting off stage, which has been thrilling.
Do you think you'll return to the Bay Area in any productions, or will we have to go and see you on the silver screen?
Well, for right now, you can just sit in your living room and catch me once in a while in between your TV shows. But I'm hoping that that I'll be able to secure some work on camera so that I can afford to keep doing stuff on stage. And if so, I would love to be back in San Francisco area.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
Finally, do you have any advice for aspiring actors of any age who want to follow in your footsteps? You actually flew on stage.
I did.
When you starred in Peter Pan. Was that kind of scary?
Oh, it was thrilling. It was thrilling. But I've always told people if I could have any superpower in the world, I would want to be able to fly. And so getting harnessed up and shot across the theater was just wonderful for me.
And the kids who were in the show with you, we all know the story of Peter Pan, they had to actually lift off the stage and kind of learn to fly too.
There were, yeah, the kids who played John and Michael, and then also the young woman who played Wendy also had to fly, and it was thrilling.
And you look so graceful too.
Oh,
I think
I'm
if
so
I
glad.
tried to do that, it would look like a belly flop into the pool.
Well, you do have to practice. You know, they brought in professionals to help teach us. You know, once you're up in the air, you have to kind of hold your body a certain way. Otherwise, you do just kind of collapse on yourself, and you'll just be dead weight swinging through the air. But, you know, I think that if I had any piece of advice, I was just speaking with some students last week. I was in Los Angeles at the International Model and Talent Association conference. It's a large competition. And I was fortunate to do very well and was given some awards while I was there. And I was speaking with some of the young girls who had gone with us. And of course, I can never quite turn off my the teacher inside my head. And so as I was speaking with them, they said, well, you know, you got first place, and we didn't get first place. And I looked at them and I asked them, how old do you think I am? Oh, probably 24 or 25. No, I'm 32.
Oh, I was wondering if you were actually going to tell your age.
I will tell you. You know, but to tell them, you know, it's been 32 years for me to get the courage to come to this place. And look at you, you're 14 and you already have the courage to show up here. So you're just light years ahead. But then also to say, you know, yes, I was very excited to be able to get these awards. However, when I go home, I have to go back to my own acting classes as well, and I have to keep learning. And they were very surprised by this, and I just said, look, here's the deal. If you want to be a professional actor, what you are committing to is being a student for the rest of your life. And that's your responsibility.
Emily, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your experiences and advice. All of us here and the audience as well wish you much success in your future endeavors, and we look forward to seeing you again on stage or on screen. And thanks to the audience for being with us today. Tune in next week. Bye for now.